I've always just worked with one collie, and it's a big ask doing all gathering the hill, because it's a big gather out there, you know, but I always got a right hardy hill dog. First thing I do in the morning is let my dog out, and he's with me all day, and he's my pal. Like, I mean, I'm out there myself all the time. You know, the company has your dog, and he sits in the back of the bike, so you do pass comment, you do mention about what you're saying, and and as I say, he never answers back, which is good as well. I'm John Murray, and I farm Blackface sheep at Crossflat, and I've done so all my life. This year was my 50th lambing at Crossflat, and I know I haven't got many left in it, so although it was a horrendous lambing, I quite enjoyed it because of that. Crossflat is it's at Muirkirk. Part of the land straddles the Lanarkshire border actually, but we're in East Ayrshire. It's a moorland area. The house at Crossflat sits just over 800 feet, and our hill goes up to 2,000 feet. So it's quite a short growing season. It's late spring. We don't really have grass here till much grass to speak of till the end of May, you know. So I was born to this farm, was born on this farm, and I have farmed it all my life, and I'm really passionate about it. You know, I followed our shepherd. We used to have 2 shepherds, and as a young boy, I followed them round. You know, and I always had jobs. They gave me jobs to do, and lambing time, and that's for a cup of tea, really. You know, historically, this farm has been breeding Blackface sheep for 500 years. That's just what thrive in these hills. It was about 100 years from Charles Howitson. 100 years ago, it was the main place. He was the main guy for maybe 30 years. He founded the Blackface Sheep Breeder Association. He was just the main pedigree breeder, and then it kind of faded away a bit after that. But I always had a notion to try and breed pedigree tups again, and I've been trying my best to do that for the last 50 years. So. The hill sheep are the sheep that prop up the whole sheep industry. We're the ones that provide the breeding stock for further down the hills. You know, the Blackface sheep they're crossed onto the Blue Leicester to produce the Scotch mule, which is the mainstay of the whole fat lamb production down country. And the Scotch mule carries the attributes of the Blackface. It has that maternal, they're lovely used to work with. They're so maternal and milky and kind. Plus they're prolific because they're crossed with a Blue Leicester. These sheep here have been in this farm for more than 500 years, you know, the Blackface, and an unbroken line. The ancestors of these ewes were out there 500 years ago, so they've seen it all, basically. Blackies suit this part of the world because these hills, we've got a very high rainfall. It's pretty poor grazing out in the hills, you know, in the winter, and they convert basically really poor grazing millennia grasses, heathers into a really high quality product, you know. And throughout history, other breeds have been tried. There've been other breeds crossed onto them, but it just hasn't worked, you know. And so they've always gone back to the Blackie. There's a term they talk about in the 1700s. They called it a mini ice age, you know. And if you look at them at that time in history, they got really small and wiry. They were bred to, you know, and it was only the hardiest that would come through that period in history. And then when you fast forward 100 years, wool was a major commodity, so they were bred for wool, you know, and the long fleeces and quality fleeces, you know. So the breeders throughout the time they've been here have adapted them to suit what the market required, and you just want them to because they're a fantastic animal, and you just want them to continue being the main breed in the hills for the future. It's the one part of farming that's still very traditional. The routine, the farming calendar through the year hasn't changed in all these years. It's still the same. It's not like other sectors of farming that's had to move with the times. For me, the farming year starts at lambing time, and I love lambing time because lambing time you close off from the outside world. You've got an excuse not to, you don't look at your phone, no answering phones, no office, you're just at sheep, and it's great. So for a month, that's all you do. First 15 lambings I did, I lambed the hill on foot. So you basically had to see the sheep twice a day. So you push them up the hill in the afternoon onto the tops, and then you set off at 4:30 the next morning and you walk to the top of the hill and you push them all down again and checked where all the top end of the hill where any problems might have been. It's also the time actually, those 15 years are probably the 15 years that stick in my mind most, because it was them that the sounds and the smells and the sights of the hill at that time of year, just nature, it's embedded in me. I mean, that's 30 odd years ago, and it was farming and nature just working in harmony, you know, and we were doing that before all experts came along and told us what we should be doing and where we were going wrong, and it worked at that time, you know. And with the advent of quad bikes, you kind of lost that a bit because of the noise of the bike, and everything was done, it was more hurried and rushed, you know, and it's changed a wee bit, you know. But the shearing's another time of year I enjoy, because I'm quite thrown in a way about anybody else shearing my sheep, you know, and I still shear them myself, you know, and I know I'm a bit stubborn. I keep getting told I should be getting contractors in, but despite my arthritic knees and my sore back, I managed to get through them really. And you work close to the sheep at that point, because it's the only time you're really in a one-to-one with all the sheep, and you get a chance to look at them, and yeah, you just take stock off them a wee bit, you know. Breeding stock is my main thing. Probably my favourite day, 2 days of the whole year, is when all the ewe lambs are brought in and we pick the stock ones we want to go into the flock, because we have them in the flock for the next 6 years. So we pick the best and we study them, and these are stock ewe lambs that come into the flock to replace the old ewes going out. And then there's usually a surplus of about 260, 270 that are then sold to other people. Because they're quite high quality I'm producing, they tend to go for pure breeding, I would say. They tend to go for other people to try and breed other black faces off, you know. Some of them go for crossbreeding down the hill for the people. People buy them to produce their Scottish mules, you know. Yeah, I'm selling pedigree black faces to other black face breeders. But we also breed pedigree tups. We breed tups, which is always a twitchy time of year. Just coming on to that time of year now, you know. It's been the challenge of my lifetime, has been to keep on improving them, getting them better all the time. I'm my own worst critic, but my stock of ewes now, I take great pride in them. I'm really happy with them, and they're what I've been trying to breed all my days, you know. You're trying to keep them commercially right. We've got to get carcasses right. The tups I'm using now, the Titan and his sons, they're big meaty tups, you know, like Texels, and so you're trying to breed them commercially right, great shapes, jiggets, well, good in their legs. But the thing I'm a sucker for is breed character. You know, I cannot. When I'm working with my ewes all the time, and the pleasure I get is looking at them and just oozing with character. You know, and when I say character, it's a hard thing to describe to the layperson. But even a layperson, when they see a sheep with character and an ordinary sheep, it stands out for them. I mean, they've got the sheep I tend to work with. I've got these massive big muzzles and big wide nostrils, and they've got wild eyes, and they show themselves well. They have a presence about them. When you see them out in the field, they get their heads up, and they know they're good. They strut their stuff. When I say it's up to us as breeders to change the ewes to suit modern day demands, as if all the breeders before me have at their timing when they've been looking after caretakers, and I'm the same. And you're trying to stay ahead of the game a wee bit. You're trying to see what's coming. You're trying to breed for where you think the market's going in a few years' time. Rather than playing catch up all the time, you're trying to produce the goods that's going, you know, that people are going to be needing, you know. Well, for example, I would say at the moment, the one, and it's been good to see, the biggest seller throughout this sales season, and they have been on fire, the trade for them, have been the Scotch mules. And it's great to see. Since ever I remember, people in the Lowland, they've been looking for an alternative to the Scotch mule, and they've tried imported breeds, they've tried all these composite breeds, they've made up breeds to replace the Scotch mule. Some people do it in spreadsheets. They get spreadsheets with this perfect sheep that's got food conversion efficiencies and live weight gains, and this is the sheep for it. And they've all been done with the aim really of replacing the Scotch mule. And what's happened this year, the Scottish mule is just, people have tried it, there's nothing to beat the Scottish mule. To produce Scottish mules, you need a blackie that's got super bare coats, bare skins, well built, well made, good in its legs, bit of length to it, you know. So I would say at this moment in time, we're looking at that market. I'm trying to produce tups to produce daughters that would be good mothers for Scottish mules. That's one of the things you're looking at anyway. The toughest challenges actually we've had in the last few, people talk about the weather, you know, I mean, we had a pretty rough spring, but the challenges with the weather, I think because we're working with these sheep, they don't affect us so much, I have to say, as people with some breeds and bad springs. I would say the biggest challenge we have is political. We've had huge challenges with Brexit. I had a huge market for my surplus females over to Ireland. Probably 80% of the females I sold, my old ewes, surplus ewe lambs, gimmers, went to Ireland, which is now that market's closed. It was the same man bought my first pen of sale ewe lambs for 15 years, you know, and because of politics, never has stopped. So that's been a challenge. If I was going back, if I was starting all over again, I wish I had started trying to breed tups a bit earlier in my life, you know, and I did work with a commercial stock for 15 years before I started selling tups, you know, and I think that's 15 years I wish I had back, because I wish I'd started earlier. If I was giving advice to anybody managing blackies, it's less is more. Leave them, you know, and in bad weather or that, just walk away, leave them to it. They'll sort themselves out. They've been sorting themselves out for 500 years out there. They know better than us. And if you got a bad snowstorm in the middle of lambing time, they know better than us what to do and where to go and how to deal with it, you know. So yeah, if I was doing it again, I would say trust in nature a wee bit, you know. You don't need to have your hands on everything. You don't need to get involved in everything. Fundamentally, I think I love being my own boss. You know, you make your own decisions, you make your own mistakes, and you remember the mistakes you make. I love outside, I love outdoors, I love being outside all the time. Even when I think I'm just going to have a day off and a day in the house, I'm out within half an hour. You know, I just love being outside, you know, and I think in hill farms as well, because I'm quite old-fashioned in a way, and I think because it's quite traditional and following these old routines, you know, I still quite enjoy part of that, you know. And I know probably if I'd been younger, I would have been needing to look at various ways of modernising and doing things, but I'm just quite happy to enjoy what I'm doing, you know. I mean, I know I'm the owner of this Crossflat sheep flock, but I'm really a caretaker, because everybody's had their wee shots for the last 500 years, dealing with them, trying to improve them, trying to adapt them to what the market wants at that time. I've spent now my 50 years here caretaking the breed, moving them on for the next person to take them on, you know, and because they're amazing animals to work with. To me, she is the go-to. They talk about easy care breeds. She's the original, and she's the best, you know.